You're listening to ResultsLeader.fm. Being a thought leader is easy. Getting results is hard. This show is for the results leader who lives and dies by their results. Here is your host and Chief Results Leader, Jonathan Rivera.
Yes, y'all. It is time once again for another ResultsLeader.fm. Welcome to the only show on the internet dedicated to the men and women who are getting results for their clients. Today is going to be a little bit different. After recording over 100 episodes, interviewing some of the top results leaders on the planet, I decided it was time to do a solo show. And in fact, what I'm going to share with you was a really a life-changing moment that if it didn't happen, we wouldn't be speaking today. And you'll understand what I'm talking about when we jump into today's episode on the 3 life-changing lessons learned from investing in exclusive masterminds. So let's jump in. $12,000? Do we even have that? Those are the words Cupcake, my wife, cried to me when I told her about my latest investment. I've never joined an exclusive mastermind, but I knew one thing was for sure, that if I wanted to change my life, I needed to do something different. And the fact was, quite simply, we didn't have the money. But I argued with Cupcake and I said we couldn't afford not to do it. So I scrounged up every penny I could, flipped couch cushions, opened up piggy banks, did whatever I could to get the first month's payment in so I can get started. And then I crossed my fingers and I'd hope for the best. It was crazy. Within a year, we closed the business that we came into the mastermind with. We realized that wasn't the right business for us, and we started a new business, or turned a hobby into a business. And since then, we're blessed. I mean, we've helped hundreds of experts and millions of listeners worldwide. This was life-changing for us. And so in today's episode, I want to share the 3 life-changing lessons that we've learned from investing in high-level masterminds. And the first thing we're going to talk about is knock, knock. Who's there? Okay. Number 2, asking better questions. And number 3, becoming the best version of yourself. So who's there? When I joined my first exclusive mastermind, it was because I wanted to change my life. My business was stuck. I hadn't made any gains in 2 years, and I was looking for a way out. And the person running the mastermind, he said to me that he had all the answers. He promised that he had all the answers. And he said he would also, in addition to having me in the mastermind, that he would also pair me with a coach who would help me get the results I was looking for. And I believed him. I said, what a deal. First, I'm going to get the mastermind, and then I'm going to get a coach to guide me through this, to help me grow, to help me break free, to help me make the change that I was looking for. And they paired me with a coach after I signed up. And it was the strangest thing. This guy was so predictable and so funny that well, it wasn't funny at first, but I had to laugh about it later on. But anytime I asked him a question, anytime I asked for some insight or some guidance, his advice was always the same. Hey, why don't you buy so-and-so's course? Or, hey, why don't you buy so-and-so's course? And it was always about buying another info course. And I thought, man, I'm spending let me rephrase that. I'm investing every penny I have right now to be here. And you're telling me to buy other courses? Where the hell am I going to get the money for that? That's what I wanted to tell him. Of course, that's not what I told him. I realized that I couldn't rely on this coach. And so I decided to change my strategy. I decided to focus more on making friends and less on my coach. So at each live event, there were 4 live events that year, I would make sure and meet everyone I could, talk to everyone I could, have dinner and have drinks and have time, coffee, whatever. Any time that was there was friend making time. And that strategy paid off for many, many years because there's folks who had come from that mastermind who have become clients, who have become friends, and who have referred other of their friends to become clients of the Podcast Factory. And that was a big, big realization. When choosing a mastermind, it's important to find out who the other members are, who's in that group. Because one of the biggest benefits to joining a mastermind is having access to the right people. Knowing the right people can change your life. So that is the first lesson. Now let's go on to the second lesson that we learned from investing in exclusive masterminds. Asking better questions. I've often heard that asking better questions gets you better answers. When you have better answers, you take better actions. When you take better actions, you get better results. But how do you learn to ask better questions? One of the cool features of that first mastermind I joined was this idea of a hot seat. An entrepreneur would volunteer for the hot seat and go sit at the front of the room and share information about his business, about where he is, where he wants to go, and what problems he's facing. And he'd ask the group for some perspective. And then we'd go around the room and different business owners, different group members would offer some help. Now me, this was my first mastermind. I was the least experienced in the group, so I usually kept my lips sealed and listened intently. What I quickly realized was the most helpful people followed a similar pattern. Instead of offering advice, the first thing they did was ask questions. Now, these weren't some scientific questions. They were quite simple questions like how or why. Simple questions that got to the root of a problem. And what I noticed was within 2, 3, 4, maybe sometimes 5 questions, they were able to unlock big breakthroughs, big aha moments. Oh my God, why didn't I think of that myself kind of moments, and send that entrepreneur on the hot seat back to his chair to map out his next strategy or the answer to what he was looking for. And it was a lot of fun. And when they asked the right questions, the rest of the group had a better perspective and they could jump in and offer some advice. And so the art of asking better questions is probably the greatest gift you get from being in the right mastermind. I catch myself using those words. I'll rephrase that. The art of asking better questions is one of the greatest gifts you get from being in the right mastermind. See the difference there? A well-placed question can change the way you think about everything. Now let's look at the third lesson that we learned from investing in exclusive masterminds. Becoming the best version of yourself. Now, if you don't know it, I've got a show called Results Leaders. And in that show, I always ask our guests, what is the most valuable investment that you have ever made? And you'd be surprised. 93% of the time, they say the greatest investment they've ever made is the investment into themselves. And we're not talking about stocks. We're not talking about real estate. It's all about personal growth. No matter where we are in life, we have to invest time, energy, and focus into becoming the best versions of ourselves. And when we first start out, and maybe we don't have a lot to invest, we can quite easily jump into podcasts and books. Get a library card. You can borrow books for free. Podcasts are for free all over the internet. As we grow and we have more, we can invest more and we can put money into coaches and courses and consultants. And when we're finally ready, we can make the greatest investment of all, and that is the investment into our environment. That's right. Into our environment, getting into exclusive masterminds, because in my opinion, the greatest investment you can make is in elevating your environment, getting around the right people, people who lift us up is key to reaching our potential. So let's bring everything together and tie it up in a nice little bow for you. The 3 life-changing lessons that we learned from investing in exclusive masterminds. Now, when I first told Cupcake I invested in a mastermind, she said, "You are nuts." Actually, I think the first thing she said, "What is a mastermind?" And then when I told her how much it cost, she said, "You are nuts." But I convinced her that we needed it. She came along for the ride because that's the way Cupcake is, ride or die. And the lessons we learned inside that group have shaped our lives. First lesson we learned was that the members are as important as a facilitator. See, masterminds are as much about making friends as they are about personal growth. And having the right group is key to our success. Second lesson we learned from masterminds was the art of asking better questions. A well-placed question can change our perspective and take us to all new heights. And the right question turns obstacles into opportunities for massive growth. The third lesson we learned was the most important. Getting in the right environment is key to our success. When we get around better people, we learn to ask better questions, and this gives us better results. That's the beginning of our journey. And I say our because Cupcake, my wife, is included in all of this, whether she's sitting in the classroom with me, which she never does, or boardroom, it's a boardroom, or whether it's attending the events or networking with clients or making sure that when clients come on board, they succeed, because obviously we do make friends and do business together in these masterminds as well. But what's interesting about this, and I want to bring it back to the opening story. We talked about investing in an exclusive mastermind, and 6 months into that mastermind, realizing we were in the wrong business. We were running a real estate training business, and we really weren't meant to be doing that. And the way that we figured that out was in the mastermind, on every break, people would come up to me and ask me about my podcasting, because I was doing podcasts with some of my friends, and this was an emerging technology at the time, and people didn't know how to do it. And they're like, "Hey, how are you doing that? I heard you on so-and-so's show. Can you help me?" And that's what we did. We analyzed what people were looking for there, and there was a need in the market for podcasts. So we shut down our real estate training business, and we opened the Podcast Factory to clients. And since then, we've helped hundreds of experts reach millions of listeners worldwide. And that's what we do here at the Podcast Factory. So I want to thank you for hanging with me. And hopefully this has inspired you to look for your next exclusive mastermind so that you can elevate your game, get around the right people, break through all barriers, and turn obstacles into opportunities. That is a wrap. So yeah, a little bit different, a little bit shorter. All your boy sharing 3 tips, 3 life-changing lessons I learned from exclusive masterminds. And now that you've heard the whole story, you can see that if it weren't for that first mastermind and that first investment and taking the plunge and getting scared and getting in the right environment, that the Podcast Factory might not exist today. So I hope that you enjoyed that episode. And what I'd like to ask you to do is, if you did, rate and review the show. Leave a comment. Tell me you liked the solo show or you hated it. I don't care. But wherever you listen to podcasts, type in resultsleader.fm by your boy, Jonathan Rivera, and drop a review. Let me know what you think about the solo format. And if I get enough feedback, maybe we can do this a little bit more regularly, because it's a fun outlet for me to share with you, and it breaks up the interview thing. I got some creativity I want to get out there too, but I haven't been doing it because I've been running the interview show. But every once in a while, I think one of these solo shows will come in handy. So drop a review wherever you listen to podcasts, resultsleader.fm, type it into the search, and give me some love. We'll see you on the next one.
This is the podcastfactory.com.